Hey everybody, it's Jimmy and Bill. So today's video is about reasons why sellers reject offers from buyers. And before during the pandemic, what was happening was there was just bidding wars, right, Bill? There was just bidding wars one after another. So they just took the highest offer and they rejected everybody else's offer. But these days there's other reasons why, and we're going to go over 10 reasons why when you make an offer on a house, and Bill's going to be talking a lot on this video because he's the realtor dealing with this every day. But we're going to go over 10 reasons why people reject offers from buyers. And if you like this kind of content, do me a favor, consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. Go ahead, Bill. What's one of the main reasons why people reject offers from buyers?
Well, sometimes, it's the price is too low. So you just made too low of an offer. So what I mean by this is, you're trying to get the best deal, on the buying side for, your client and yourself. So you
Right.
come in low and then you start to negotiate that process. But what happens sometimes is that the seller kind of gets too personal with it, and then they're kind of offended, and they can just either not negotiate, or they're just like, "Hey, we're too far apart. We're not even going to try."
So
So
you're saying like if somebody is like selling a house for 400,000, you're coming in at 320. It's like a
exactly,
slap in the face kind of thing.
yeah, it can be. It's like, "Hey, we're coming in super low," but it just as long as you've got comparables, that's how we
Mhm.
run on, with my team, we run comparables to make sure that we're making an offer and we kind of know where we're at. And those comparables should kind of run in line with where we feel the unit is going to place when we appraise.
All right. I just ran into this one with somebody I know who made an offer on the house. They made a really good offer on the house, pretty much at asking.
Mhm.
Everything was good. There was one contingency on it that they had to sell their house first before they could purchase the other one.
Right.
Talk about that one a little bit.
Yeah. So having a contingency like that is pretty normal, actually.
Now,
And you know the unicorn years, or, during COVID over the last couple of years, those kind of contingencies, it just wasn't happening. Nobody was going to
mhm.
take that, based on
Right,
like what we said, people were overbidding, they were paying cash, and,
right.
no inspection periods, which we'll touch on later. But, so what happens is as the buyer, your property needs to close so that you have the funds to purchase the new property from the seller that you made the offer in. So when you put that contingency in, the whole deal is contingent on the closing of your home. So it can
Right.
kind of run towards the end of, let's just say it's a 30-day close. It can kind of run towards the end of that because those things run succinctly and close out right around the same time, so you're not homeless per se. Um, and what you'll have to do is submit the offer. And usually what happens is the agent that's representing the seller is going to want to know that your deal is under contract, and have you cleared your contingencies, meaning, has your appraisal been done? And most importantly, has your inspection period cleared? That's the first time when people start to drop out.
Yeah. Here's another one that somebody told me about. So they were making an offer on a $600,000 house. They didn't have to sell a house. They're just making an offer. And they wanted to put $1,000 on earnest down. And the people were like, $1,000. And they rejected it because of the earnest deposit. Have you heard anything on that?
Yeah, so that's normal too. I get that. When
Okay.
you're making your earnest money, which is like industry, lingo, but that's your deposit. So when you make that deposit, you make your offer, you negotiate, your offer's accepted, but you're also offering to put money down and to kind of hold the property and secure it. And what'll happen is after certain contingency points clear, it becomes more and more difficult to get your earnest money deposit back, particularly right after your inspection period. So putting $1,000 down, if I wanted to walk away at day 29 or at the closing table, it's $1,000 because maybe my dream house fell through and I put an offer in on
Right,
that.
right,
So
right,
it's like it's money you can just walk away from. Who cares? You put down,
right.
let's say you're on, you put down $6,000. even,
Hmm.
just 1% or whatever, it's a little bit harder to walk away from 6,000. So, when we're doing that kind of stuff, it's gonna you make it sting. When we're putting in and making a solid offer, make sure that you put it, enough earnest money down to where it's gonna, sting if you walk away. It makes the seller feel much more comfortable.
I mean, what do you tell your buyers if they're buying, say, a $500,000 house? What do you recommend a certain amount that you ask them to put down, or it's really up to them what they want and they
It's
tell you?
up to them. I mean, putting down 5,000 or 10,000, what you could do, you could craft the offer a little bit of a different way. So you could put down maybe a $5,000 security deposit or earnest money deposit until the inspection period. Once the inspection period clears and you've gone through all of that in negotiation, you could offer in the contract to do another security deposit to better solidify your position. It just makes your offer look stronger when you're competing against other offers, and you have a contingency. So those are all ways to kind of get creative to make you look like a more attractive buyer. Now that money you do get back if maybe like
Right.
you withdraw and you're not doing anything to violate your end of the contract, you will get that money back. But let's say you're down to the wire and you just decide, I don't want this house now. I've changed my mind altogether. You're probably
Hmm.
not going to get your security deposit back. That's why you're putting the security deposit down to prevent
Okay.
I've changed my mind just because and I'm walking away.
Okay. So let's talk about another one, and this is a real scenario too. So there was somebody selling a house for 355, and they got an offer for 350. But they were financing. They were doing FHA or VA. I don't remember exactly which one they were doing. But then somebody came in with an offer of like 342, and they took that offer because it was cash. Do you run into that situation?
Right. So they hadn't finalized negotiation and accepted an offer. They were in the
Yeah.
negotiation process and another offer came in.
Yeah. But it was a cash offer. It was less money, but the people were like, yeah, we're going to take the cash offer instead of the FHA, VA. I think they were concerned about the condition of the property and if it could pass the appraisal and all that stuff.
Right. So touching on that with FHA and VA, those aren't bad loans.
Mhm.
They're fantastic loans.
Okay.
That misnomer of those are bad is wrong. There are different inspections when it comes to the VA, and FHA. There's different inspections which are done by the appraiser. So they'll
Hmm.
allow or disallow. It's to protect the veteran or the FHA buyer because those are backed loans. Cash may not necessarily just because it's cash doesn't necessarily mean it's the best offer. They could be coming in lower because it's cash. Can they close quicker? Most of the time, yes. But you just kind of have to weigh those two things out. But unfortunately, cash does tend to trump some regular offers. But we have, I've been successful with getting, one or two of those um done under a loan type process because it was just a strong offer.
So let me ask you this. Say somebody, they agreed on the house. Let's say it's $400,000, keep it simple, but the appraisal comes in at 380. What happens in that scenario?
Sure. So that's a good scenario. So you'll go back to the table,
Mhm.
right? So let's say at 380, obviously the lender is most likely not going to loan you the money because it's
Mhm.
not at the value, right? We're not doing, subprime loans. We're not doing any of the crazy stuff where, the bank wants to make sure that their asset is protected. So when they're giving you that loan amount, the house doesn't appraise. Well, the house didn't appraise, it's 20,000 off. So you have an option of negotiating again. The seller could come down that, $20,000 because the house didn't appraise and the appraisal
Right.
fixed. So it's not going to go anywhere. And, or you can meet in the middle. There's a lot of different things, but that is one option. If your lender is not going to lend you the money, that would be another caveat to being able to walk away and most likely get your earnest money deposit back. Because if you can't get the loan, not by doing like, oh, I'm going to go buy a car, you know what I mean? Like that could be, you still have to use your due diligence, your best effort to secure a loan.
Right. Right. You know, it's funny. There's another house that I did inspection, and the seller was there, and they got multiple offers on this
Hmm.
for their home. And I said, "Oh, great." He goes, "Yeah, somebody offered more money than the people that are buying it that you're doing the inspection." I said, "Oh, why didn't you accept a better offer?" And they said that basically the realtor didn't present the offer nicely or something like that. Didn't present it accurately, or it wasn't presented like they didn't like the realtor basically. When you make an offer, how do you make an offer? So you have a buyer, and I didn't understand this either, but you have a buyer and then they just say to you, "Hey, we want to make an offer of the house." Do you and you put that offer to the selling agent.
Correct.
Okay. So if the selling agent has a buyer so they can have both ends of the deal,
Hmm.
is there what do you, is it a conflict of interest and it might get messed up or something?
So, all right, that's a couple pointed question there. So
Yeah,
for
it's a complicated one because
yeah,
I didn't understand these sellers saying, "Well, I didn't like the way the offer was represented," or something like that.
okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. So first off,
Okay,
let's hit the selling agent double ending the deal. So,
okay,
you
let's do
know,
that.
the seller's agent, if they procure a buyer, they're going to
Yeah.
represent the buyer and the seller. Okay, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They're legally allowed to do that.
Hmm.
They just have to be a little bit more cautious because it's almost like, would you hire the same lawyer to represent the plaintiff and the defendant? It's kind of the same thing. But
Right.
we're at the end of the day, we're facilitating the deal to be done. It's not, in my opinion, best practice. But it does get done and it is not illegal. But it does make it difficult because you have to be very, very cautious as to what you say and the advice that you give. So
Okay.
going back to the other side of it, which was how it was presented. So
Yeah.
that could be a couple different things. So was it presented like, hypothetically, oh, well, I don't know what the deals were or what the multiple offers are. Basically, when we run into a multiple offer situation, we break those down. We sit down with the contracts that the seller or yeah, the seller would have all the contracts, and we go over everything and tell them this is what this contract is, this is what this contract is, and then ask questions, answer questions, pros and cons of each one to evaluate which offer to select. So
Yeah.
secondarily on that,
Go ahead.
presenting the offer. So, because you kind of mentioned something about the other agent. So when
Right.
I'm presenting an offer, it comes over, it's easy for you're setting a tone, right? So I
Right.
make it easy for the listing agent because being on the listing agent's side as well, it's difficult.
Right. Okay.
I do a cover letter, not like a letter like, oh, this is my family, blah, 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 because that'll get you in hot water fast.
Well, right.
But I do a cover letter of, "Hi, thank you for letting us, tour your property. My clients loved it, whatever. Here's our offer." And I break down the offer. Obviously, the offer is submitted, in PDF form, but I break down the offer. So it's a little bit easier when you are comparing, multiple things. It's easier for the listing agent to handle. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, and I'll even say things like, because I'll know it's been maybe in a multiple offer situation, things that you're flexible on, like closing time. But I've already called the listing agent. Hey, do they need a quick close, a long close? We kind of already started hashing out some of those things to present our best offer straight away.
Right. Because I think on this particular scenario, I think the offer they accepted was done like what you're saying, basically.
Mhm.
And I think the offer they rejected was the other realtor calling the listing realtor saying, "Hey, my people will give this much money. Should I write it up?" kind of thing.
Oh, that's not an offer. I mean, it's an offer, but that's not a way to do
Yeah.
business.
That's what I think they were trying to say. They were just like, it was like take it or leave it kind of deal.
Yeah.
And just to save time. And they said, no, because the other people presented an offer like you were saying,
Okay. Yeah, that
so
sets the tone, in my opinion. How's that realtor, I'm not putting anything in writing. I'm just going to call you because I don't want to take the time to submit an offer the correct
right.
way, and follow the rules. You know,
Yeah. Because Also, one of the biggest reasons people are, reject offers is the we talked about it before is contingencies.
Mhm.
I need 3 months to close, or I need to sell my house, or, I want all the furniture, or just like I want this fixed or that fixed. I want a 2-week inspection period.
Right.
What do you think of all that stuff? Is it contingencies the biggest thing,
Yeah.
or is it
So
price?
no, no, it's kind of a mixed bag.
Okay.
If you come in too low, like I said, it's hard for sometimes. Let me rephrase that. So sometimes seller, like I said, they get a little emotional to it. It's a business transaction. You're trying to get the most, the buyer's
Hmm.
trying to get the least. So, and then when you turn the shoe on the other foot and that seller now becomes a buyer, now they do the same thing and they're coming in
Right.
low going
Right.
high.
Right.
So this
Okay.
is business, and these are tactics. It's, and if you can back up what you're saying, you're just not arbitrarily throwing out, coming down, 20 or $30,000 less just because you feel like it. Um, as long as you've got some, ammunition to argue, then that's what the realtor's job is to make a strategic plan and be able to back up the argument as to, hey, this is why I support this valuation of the property and what it's worth.
Right. Right.
Because people do overprice things. Just because I list a
Yeah.
house doesn't mean I have control over what the price is. I make a suggestion. If the seller says, Bill, I want you to list it at this, I have
Hmm.
to make a decision whether I'm going to continue to work with you or list it at that price and be like, I think that's, XYZ, too much. And I just won't. And I've turned down clients because they wouldn't, take the advice. They were grossly overpriced. And those properties just aren't going to sell.
Right. And I agree with you. I mean, you have anything else to add to this stuff? The reasons why people's offers get rejected.
Um, I think we hit most of the big ones, to be honest with
All
you.
right. Yeah. No, that's fine.
Those are the big ones. Just, you know, when from the buy side, when you're presenting an offer, just make sure that your agent, is submitting it the right way.
Hmm.
And I say the right way loosely, but I mean the right way, in my opinion, is make sure that it's easy to read. It's not through some portal. Make things simple. Remember, on the listing side, you're getting multiple offers or you've got a lot of other things going on at the same time, just like the buyers, the agents that's representing the buyers, they've got other things going on as well. They're driving around doing showings. So just kind of
Right.
remember to keep things simple. And at the end of the day, the goal is for both agents to come together and service the customers and make sure that they have a fantastic experience. And that's what separates agents is what kind of service you're going to give to your customer, whether it's just,
Right.
you know, making sure you're communicative on both ends, not having, um, you know, four different assistants handling different things. It gets very, confusing to both your customer and to the other agent.
Yeah,
Um,
because buying a home and selling a home could be a stressful situation.
Very much so. Um,
So you want to make it so it's like as smooth as possible for them.
exactly. And, that's the deal that you want, when you go, "Oh, man, that was so easy." Well, that's
Right.
because there's systems and processes that your agents put in place, and they have it fine-tuned down, and it's just a smooth machine, and that's what
Right.
you want, but that takes work. There's work on the back end to make it that smooth on the front end, so it looks like nothing was done, and it was just a matter of I submitted a contract, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
The my goal is to make sure that my clients think I didn't do anything. In
Right.
essence, because I want it to be that smooth. I wish every one of them was, but it's not.
Yeah. No. There's some tough ones. I'll give you a quick example. I did an inspection and the people still lived there and it was furniture. The people were going to do a final walkthrough,
Mhm.
the day before the closing. I'm sure you do that a lot
Yep.
too. But on this final walkthrough, the buyer said, I want to, during the inspection period, said, I want to add a contingency on there that if I don't like the home when the home is empty and I walk through, I could just walk away and get my earnest money deposit. And the people are like, well, we just emptied the house, we moved out, that's not going to happen. And I think, the deal's either dead or might die because of that request.
Right.
So I think that people need to be careful with what they're asking for.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a little overboard. You can ask for anything that you want,
Yeah.
you know? Same thing with repairs. You mentioned repairs. You can ask for
Yeah.
anything during that inspection period. You can ask for any kind of repair to be done or a credit, but
Right.
doesn't mean that the seller is going to give it to you. You know, it's you're just asking, and then you have to decide if you want to continue to move forward or not. You
Yeah.
know, with,
Yeah.
with the deal, and it's tough when you start adding contingencies towards the end. It doesn't. That's kind of counterproductive to add contingencies at the end. No home is going to be perfect. And I get it. People don't want to get taken
But you
advantage
have to be
of.
reasonable.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like
I mean, the seller has to be reasonable and the buyer has to be reasonable. They
correct,
can't ask for outrageous things.
right, right.
Like, here's another one. I think, was it you that they were selling the house, but they wanted to live in the home for a few months after they sold it. Was
Yeah,
that you?
that I've done a couple of those. So,
Okay.
that's relatively common. So what that's called is a lease back, and
Okay.
that's a good way. So what happens there is you sell your house to the buyer.
Hmm.
Part of the negotiation process is what's called a lease back. So the seller, the previous who closes on a house now becomes the previous owner, leases the house back from the buyer for a for a preset determined
Right.
time and money amount in
Right.
the short term. There's some rules with that. So, you just kind of have to make sure, depending on your loan, there's some rules with that. But what that allows you to do is have a little bit of room to get find your next property. So if I was
Right.
representing
And
like
you
the
have the cash from the sale of your home. Yeah.
exactly, hey, I need 2 months to secure my, new property, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The buyer's like, "Well, we're not moving in for a few weeks. No problem,"
Yeah. All
and
right.
then
That
it
sounds
works.
good.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, anyways, that's today's video. The most common reasons why, sellers reject buyers' offers. So leave your comments before. I know during the pandemic, it was a different story, but things are getting back to normal in a sense. So these are the most common reasons. Before, during the pandemic, correct me if I'm wrong, it was because there was just so many offers. They just took the highest offer.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, it was during the
It was
pandemic,
crazy.
we were
Yeah.
writing, it was, buyers had burnout, because they were writing so many offers on properties before they got accepted. They were just had to find the right one. So it was tough.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everybody watching. As always, do me a favor, consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. And hit the bell notification to get notified next time I upload a video. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks. Talk to you next time.